things colors. I'm just trying to do rap songs and be down with my brothers. Hey, maybe a few others too. We can get a pay-per-view. We can watch boxing all the time or join the ground crew. Or the crew that changes ice to the warm courts. Make athletes take off skates, put on mesh shorts. Make a soda line, pass it to a friend of mine. Marine made catch Dory, season with a sprig of thyme. Hot dog for lunch, hot dog for dinner. Don't eat breakfast, I am no beginner, no.
Alright, so that was the commercial for NoFilter, the new social media platform that I've been developing. And we are live. It is Friday. It's about 3:25 p.m. here. I have to get out of here in a little bit to go to a doctor's appointment. Like, a lot of you know that I haven't really been feeling well. I've got like blood pressure and heart issues. They're trying to iron out the whole thing now, and it sucks. It really sucks. I mean, in the best of times, things can get tricky. You can be in perfect health, have everything going your way, and then something happens. Anything happens. You go outside, you get a flat tire, like whatever, and suddenly the world is turned on its head. Well, that gets like 50 times worse when you are not healthy, and that's sort of like where I am now, and it's just frustrating to not be able to do everything that I know I can do. But like I said in my previous video, I haven't just been sitting around this whole time, like, just doing nothing while I wait to get better. I've been actively going out to doctors and hospitals and, working on that situation. At the same time, while I'm at home, I've been working on this beautiful social media platform that I just sat here and came up with over the past 2 months. I think I started having trouble around New Year's Eve, and basically from that time onwards, like, I've been working on this platform. I just sat down and did it. I'd been frustrated with Instagram and Facebook for a long time, mainly Instagram, mainly because of the censorship issues and the potential that I saw that they could have if they were allowed to go further than they did. I mean, for one, it really, really pisses me off to see, like, censored, like, nudity in an app that's made for photography. I mean, I grew up loving photographs. I used to get this French magazine, Photo Magazine, and there was always some topless woman, on the cover of Photo Magazine. I mean, I was like 13, 14 years old. I was too young. They would never sell me a Playboy or anything, but they had no trouble selling me Photo Magazine. They figured I was a photography student or something, and they didn't really care. And like, and this is like the Midwest in America. This is Chicago. They're like, hey, that's a photography magazine. This is what photography is. And it really sort of set my mood in terms of, like, nudity in photography. It's the same thing, the same exact thing as nudity in painting or sculpting or like whatever. It's art, and that's, art is supposed to be the way that it was created, not with a squiggly line or a blur on it. So, ever since I first started using Instagram, I said to myself, one day I am going to build my own platform where, art is presented the way that art should be presented. So, we just took a look at the commercial, and you can see that I actually did what I said I was going to do. Even sick in bed, I'm in bed right now. I sat here and I did it, and I've continued to work on it, and I'm hopefully going to build it up into something really cool that you guys can all take a part of. Now, if the videos that I've made on this channel have helped you at all, if you were able to get rid of the 30-minute limit from your camera, if you were able to use Cinelike D or Cinelike V on your Panasonic camera, then you can go to the link that's right below my face here, and you can get in on the alpha version of this app. It's still really early going. We're still putting all of the pieces together, but if you chip in $10 or whatever, then you can get in on the alpha. All of your photos and things will be there in the beta and in the final version of the app when it's released. So just imagine you were the first person on Twitter, you were the first person on Instagram. You can be the first person or one of the first people on No Filter, and everybody's going to look at your stuff, because as you will see right now, there really isn't much to look at. So whatever you put up there now is going to have a starring role. Now, this week in photography, I have to sort of hurry it along because we had some technical issues at the beginning of the show. So I want to hit all the points that I said I was going to hit in this video. So this week, I believe it was on Valentine's Day, just a couple of days ago, Panasonic released the GX9, which really didn't do a whole lot to impress me, but it did wind up turning the heads of a small, but very vocal minority. That minority being the Panasonic GX7 users. Now, there's a lot of GX7 users, unbeknownst to me, but apparently there are a lot of them out there that weren't satisfied with the GX8. They thought it was too big. They didn't like the fact that it had an articulating screen instead of a flip down screen, and for those reasons, they just held on to their GX7s until now. I mean, to me, the GX9 seems like a step down from the GX8. It's not weatherproof. It doesn't have an articulating screen. The build quality isn't quite the same. It's a smaller, cheaper camera, but that's actually what the GX7 people were sort of hoping for, and apparently that's what Panasonic gave them. It's got looks like the same 20.3 megapixel sensor as the GX8, and it still has dual IS. Only the GX8 had 4-axis image stabilization, and the GX9 has 5-axis stabilization. It's got the usual depth from defocus that just about all Panasonic cameras have. I believe the touch screen is a little bit bigger, and the EVF, the view range, is a little bit smaller than the GX8, which had one of the most beautiful electronic viewfinders that you'll probably ever see. The frames a second is a little bit up, and they also removed the moire filter from the GX9, putting it on par with the GX80/GX85/GX7 Mark II. And so that's basically it for that camera. There's nothing for me to be excited about because I already own a GX80, and I already have the moire filter removed, and I already have a lot of these things. I already have the 5-axis stabilization. I already have a lot of the stuff that was just put into the GX9. Not only that, I've had it for almost 2 years now. So it's nothing in there that's a big deal for me. But for GX7 users who have been waiting for a true successor to the GX7, those people are rightly excited about the GX9. Now, the next camera that was recently, I don't know if it's even officially released yet or if the leaks are just out, but the next camera that people are sort of talking about is the Panasonic X-H1, which is this puppy right here. And this is sort of the video-focused version of the Fuji X-T2. It's basically the next step up from there, with the big ticket item on the X-H1 being the fact that it has 5-axis in-body image stabilization. The first Fuji camera in the X series to have that. There was always a big question mark as to whether or not they were ever going to have any sort of in-body image stabilization in the Fuji X series. But this camera finally answers that question. And along with that, you have some nifty things like 8-bit F-log built right into the camera. In the XT2, you used to have to output from the battery grip, I believe, and you would only get F-log if you were recording externally, and I believe you only were able to even do that if you were using the body grip. If I correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe that's how that was supposed to go. Everything else is more or less the same as it was on the XT2, just in terms of those sorts of features. But like what's new is like a bigger, thicker body. You have a bigger battery in there that has a little bit more capacity. Weather sealing, the whole camera itself is sturdier than the original XT2 was. I had a chance to check out all of these new cameras at, they've got all of these photography shops here in Berlin, and they've been doing demos of most of them. Like, if I have the time, which I don't think I will, because I've been spending all of my time working on No Filter lately, but if I ever do have the time, I'll take some of the video that I shot of these new cameras and I'll put it right here on DHI Enterprises, or maybe not, because the whole thing is like, the worst performing videos that I ever did was when I flew to Cologne, Germany for Photokina, and I did videos on every new camera that was coming out, which at the time was something like the Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II, and I think the Canon 5D Mark IV was just coming out. I went out there and did, the G80 and the G81, same camera, different name. I went out there. They had just been announced, I believe, at Photokina that year. And I think out of all the videos that I did, and I was there for the whole 6 days of the festival, like I think at most I might have gotten like 1,000 or 1,200 views for something like the XT2, which hadn't come out yet. And it's like, it was a really big investment of time and money to go out there. But it wasn't just me. If you look at Kai Wang's videos from the same show, or like the Canadian camera guys, and whoever was at Photokina, like, it's like the lowest viewed videos that any of us did were the ones that we did at Photokina. So I'm probably not going to be posting anymore, like, new camera reveals, because it's always a week or two later anyway that everybody's already got the camera, so it's not really much point. But getting back to the Fuji X-H1, that's the camera that I'm really excited about. Like I mentioned when I was at Photokina, that I was really excited about having an opportunity to pick up an XT2, but a number of things happened and I just never got around to it. Like I had too much work being done on larger cameras like the Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pro and the Blackmagic Ursa Mini like 4.6K, and I even had a couple of jobs where I had to use a Sony A7S and a Sony A7S Mark II, and then the GH5 came out and I used that for a couple of gigs. I just never got around to picking up an XT2 because I knew even if I did, I just didn't have that much time to work on photographs and to learn it. I mean, 2017 was a very video-centric year for me, and part of the problem was that the XT2 was sort of underwhelming when it came to video, which is the entire point of them releasing the X-H1, was they wanted to have a more video-centric camera, that's still very capable of doing still images, and that's sort of what they've given us now. And So the final camera that everybody has been talking about is the Panasonic GH5s. Now, the big thing about the GH5s is the low light capabilities of it. I believe it was Sony that first discovered with the A7s that, like, if they drop the megapixels down to the 12 megapixels that it is in the A7s, then they would get better low light performance. Well, that's what they did with the A7s. They kept it down at 12 megapixels for the A7s too. And what Panasonic decided was that, hey, if like reducing the megapixels increases the pixel size and therefore gives us better low light performance, why not go all the way down to 10 bits? And that's what they did. They went all the way down to 10 bits, 422, and they kept all of the rest of the best features of the GH5. You know, they're still doing like the 400 megabit a second uh, bit rate capture. They've still got like now the 1080p footage is down to 240 frames a second, I believe, and much better low light performance from ISO 160 all the way up to 51,200, or from 80 all the way up to 204,800 in the extended range. And the autofocus, which was a big sticking point for the GH5, is finally improved, and I believe you get slightly more like frames a second. Like actually, they have all of the differences laid out right here, like 10 megapixels instead of the 20 megapixels on the original. There's a dual gain sensor design. It's fixed sensor with no internal like stabilization. That's extremely notable. The fact that the GH5s doesn't have any internal stabilization. I wasn't even rightly aware of that. Stabilization was a huge like reason to buy the GH5 in the first place. I mean, Dual IS2 was really good, although in my opinion it still wasn't as good as the regular Dual IS1. Just based on my experiences with the GX80. I mean, it might be something for Panasonic fans to debate about, but other than that, you have Cinema 4K up to 60 frames a second. And let's see here. And the GH5s also has the B-Log L, which you had to buy for the GH4 and the GH5. The GH5s has that right out of the box, and so it's got a lot of it's got a lot of advantages. Like that the I don't know that the low light performance is a big enough deal for me in order to, sort of justify the trade-off of not having that like built-in in-body image stabilization, because to me the image stabilization thing was huge. That was a really big reason to even buy that camera, because I've got lots of 4K cameras laying around by now, but like the big ticket items for buying a GH5 were 400 megabits a second, 422 video, and image stabilization. That's the reasons why people bought that camera. So I think if you take away the image stabilization, and I might have to check a couple of more websites just to be sure that it's really gone, because like I said, I've been busy working on the social media platform nofltr, and I've been busy trying to get well, so I haven't really had too much time other than seeing it in a store and like pressing a few buttons. I haven't had too much time to dive into it. But if the stabilization is really gone, then that's like a huge drawback, because I've been working with Panasonic cameras for a while now, and I've gotten used to not having great low light. I've got like all sorts of studio lights and video lights that I carry around with me, and I can just light whatever scene needs to be lit. You know, it's very rare nowadays that I find myself in a situation where I would need tremendously good low light performance. But some people do, and before I bought all of this lighting equipment, I was one of those people. So it's not like it's something that like I really need now. But what I do need is your support in building No Filter into the biggest social media platform on earth. I mean, in the beginning, we're mainly going to be focused on photos and videos and images, but as it grows larger, the sky's the limit. No Filter is going to be whatever we want it to be. And I really welcome all of you to be a part of that and to help me build this thing and to help me grow this into something that I can be proud of and that all of you can be proud of for participating in. So if you want to do so, then please go to the link at the bottom of this page, dhienterprises.com/product/no filter, and apply for the alpha. Check it out. Not only will you get access to the alpha, but I will keep you in the loop of everything that's going forward in this project. And you can also subscribe to my mailing list right there, and I'll also send you emails. But the people that actually apply and download the alpha will get special treats and messages and all sorts of info and prizes and stuff from me for the duration of this period leading up to the release of the platform. So I've got an appointment to get to. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this stream, then hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll be back with another stream probably tomorrow or very soon. Have a wonderful day.